Hey, what's up? It's Alfonso on Ask the Fonz. So today we're going to continue with part two of the Richard and Colleen Halsey interview. Thank you so much for everyone watching part one. It was just so awesome to hear their experiences working on those iconic films, Rocky, Edward Scissorhands, Sister Act. I was just so happy that they were able to share their experiences working behind the scenes on those films, and I really hope you got a sense of what it's like, to work in one of these films as a Hollywood editor. So, without further ado, let's get right into part two. And part two really is all about the advice for up and coming assistant editors, post PAs. So, this actually is honestly going to be one of my favorite parts because it really follows what my mission statement is here at Ask the Fonz. It's to help you, to help aspiring film editors who are just getting into this industry or who have just graduated from college and who really want to break in. So really, listen to this, take notes, and pay attention to what Richard and Colleen have to say because this will really help you and this will really give you a boost and give you a leg up from, all the other assistants breaking in. So without further ado, let's get right into the interview. So most of the viewers on my channel have just graduated college and are starting to kind of get their foot into the editing post-production world. So I actually would be a good time to talk about what are some of the qualities of, I guess, a good assistant editor, a good post-production assistant that you guys look for when you're editing a high stress, environment with, a lot of responsibilities. What are some of the things that you look for in an assistant?
A lot of the qualities you have.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, I'll let
Great assistant.
So I'll just, I'm just curious to hear from your perspective.
Yeah. You're going to be spending a lot of time with these people. So you want someone that you like, that their personality suits you. And you want someone that's extremely organized because it's almost like a library. If you misplace something, it's gone.
Right.
But just a nice personality and good work ethic.
Let me give you my 3 rules of editing, and this applies to life in general. Organization, rule number 1. Rule number 2, trust your instincts. Rule number 3, always tell the truth. Rule number 3 is the hardest.
It is tricky.
Yeah.
Those are great rules. I love that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because on my channel, I always kind of I always tell my viewers that because a lot of them are sort of struggling with the thought of learning a lot of the technical stuff and the programs and all the new resources that are out there. And I always tell them, most editors or producers will go after people who have good personalities and can teach them when they hire them. So I always kind of just preach, and it's kind of nice to hear you say that, like, a person who has a good personality will sort of be favored over someone who doesn't really have a good personality, but like knows more about, the technical stuff.
I always feel like you can learn it.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I think
it's a lot to learn, and there's so much out there that I feel like there's too much that
knowledge is power. I think when I've spoken many times at universities, New York Film Academy, and I'm amazed sometimes that some of the students, their knowledge of films and filmmaking, the history of filmmaking, they're lacking.
Yeah, he's talking about film history.
Yeah,
you know how it is. So you're sitting around, you're having lunch together. You go, you start bringing up films that you've liked or films that affected you, and that's an important thing too. Is to know your film.
Know your movies. So that's actually a good bridge point. Actually, one of my questions was, what should the students coming out of film school or students who are going into film school should watch? What kind of movies do you suggest that are out now or that were in the past that should be watched for editing and should be studied?
Well, you can start with the AFI 100.
AFI 100, yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a ton,
Yeah,
And also whatever your inclinations are, you know.
what do you like to
What
watch?
what do you like to watch?
See all the best of it, that genre.
Right,
know,
right.
As a kid, I was raised by a woman who spoke 5 languages. So she would always take me to the movie theater and we would see foreign films. I mean, I remember being so impressed with Beauty and the Beast. I can't think of the director's name right now. Huh?
Kato?
No. Anyway, Beauty and the Beast. I have so many pictures I remember. Film history is really important.
Really important.
Really important.
And then
Even film, Paul Schrader, let me give you an example, who, you know, wrote American Gigolo, was written Taxi Driver.
He directed
He did
American Gigolo too.
Yeah, he did not go to film school. Schrader studied film criticism.
wow, interesting.
Much like the Frenchman, Francois Truffaut.
Yeah.
Critic. So I remember when I was getting ready to do Joe versus the Volcano with John Patrick Shanley, I gave him a book of famous directors, 10 of them, European directors, or, you know, American directors, Frank Capra. I gave him that book, and then I gave him a book on photography, which was an amazing book. And
That was right, Jean Cocteau.
yeah. And so I think whenever I got ready to do a film, I would do research on the director, do research on the material.
Mm-hmm.
That is important, you know.
Very,
when
very
you're,
important.
you know, doing an interview for a job, you should know who you're interviewing with, what did the director do, what films did the editor do.
Right.
It's surprising to me how many people have come in, they didn't know anything about us, and they interview and they don't ask.
That's a little awkward.
Yeah, I mean, you just
There's only an Academy Award behind them, so.
he changed the
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Well, I also know that from working for the both of you that you let your assistant editors cut as well and are very involved in the creative process. Sort of what's the reasoning behind this, and how is this sort of a win-win for everyone, since you're so generous allowing your assistants to cut?
Well, what we've been doing, as you know, Alfonso, the last 10, 15, 12 years, we've been doing small pictures. We don't want to do the big movies anymore. We kind of want to run this almost like an editing school.
Mm-hmm.
And we've both done amazing work. We've all, you know, I don't need another credit.
Right.
Do you understand? But I do want to teach, and you've got to let, how else is someone going to really learn unless they have to really do the hands-on editing?
Yeah.
I mean, you can read a book or you can stand behind the editor, but you really have to develop the thought process.
Right.
And that making decisions. I mean, it's important. I mean, you have to really be a decision maker.
Yeah.
You got to just go for it and trust yourself. And you don't know that until you actually do it.
Yeah.
No, actually, I think the way we operate now, we have 3 complete editing systems. Training assistants it can be it's very rewarding. I look how well you've done. I mean, we're so proud of you, Alfonso, and it's something we enjoy doing, and also the kind of films we do. We can't afford to hire top line assistants, so we hire people at a very reasonable rate.
Yeah.
It all depends. But,
and they learn.
I don't know if you worked on any of the films that, we've had, what we want is for them to get their hours so that they join the union. It's important to get into the union.
Yep.
And then with
I
more.
forget what films you worked with us on.
Did any of them flip to go to Union?
No. But I got my days through you guys though.
Right.
What pictures did we do?
Boonville,
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Married Young,
Oh my God. Okay.
and then that Russian film, not I forget what it was called. It was like the three girls on this like
yeah. That was a silly
Oh
film.
God.
and then also the Spaceman.
Oh,
Spaceman
that
was
was
great.
that was a good one.
Yeah, Spaceman was great.
That was great. Well, that was really,
Yeah, but Morgan got lucky. Our daughter got lucky because she was working on a film that went Union.
Oh, was that after me or was that during? That was during, I think. Oh wait, I don't remember.
Which one was it?
Maybe it was after me. Maybe it was earlier, but maybe before I was there. I think it was when you guys were with
I
Emma.
thought it was on Married Young, but you said you worked on Married Young. Well, once I don't know which one.
yeah, I think it might have been Morgan assist me on Married Young. Can't remember. We've done so many
Yeah,
films.
you've done so much.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, and I really like that because a lot of the things that like I've learned from you guys, I still apply today because there isn't really that. I feel like it's fading a little bit with the editor to assistant sort of mentoring part of when you're working, because all of these projects now require a lot of visual effects work, sound work, and it's not really hands-on creatively editing. So I really appreciated that when I was working with you guys, because now it's sort of deadlines are tighter and there isn't really that much time to cut.
Yeah, you can't sit in there and watch.
Exactly.
You're doing a lot of, putting
of
music in, sound effects.
Yeah. So thank you so much for watching part 2 of this Richard and Colleen Halsey interview. I really hope you got a lot out of this. I actually do want to take a second and kind of talk about the things they shared, especially with, the question of asking, what do they look for in an assistant editor? I really like both of their answers, and I'm going to expand on, both of what they said collectively. So, what Colleen said is, personality. I think personality really is the secret ingredient, winning interviews or being a consistent person that your producer hires. During the job, your personality will go a long way, especially as assistant or an editor. Your personality will represent your whole editing team, especially once you start working with other vendors, producers, directors. So, personality is a huge thing. I think that's why it's so ranked high and on the scale, because, people want to work with people they like. And, it really does matter in this industry because, when things go wrong, how do you deal with it? When you don't know how to solve something, how do you react? So small things like that, they count, they matter. And, Colleen even, that was the first thing that she said, personality, it's someone that you want to be around because, you're working such long hours. And even just think about it, like during a lunchtime, you want to be with someone that you have good conversations with and who, respects you and also, wants to learn from you. So, all these little things, people are really looking for. That's sort of, the person that everyone wants to work with is the person who's really enthusiastic about this industry and this passion, to just become, the best that they can be. And especially in film editing, everyone wants to break into this industry. So it's very competitive and, you want to show that you have a drive and passion for this. And then we did talk about, technical things, like you'll obviously learn things as it goes on. You don't need to know everything, but obviously just try to be on top of that. When you can, definitely practice, different programs, know some sort of VFX, know basic VFX, basic to intermediate VFX, and obviously practice your sound work, sound design. So become almost like a complete package, find ways to better yourself in this aspect. But, also at the same time, also don't freak out if you don't know everything, You should also have a life outside of editing. Go out, have a life, have hobbies and do anything that gives you a complete life. So that's also important. I love actually Richard's 3 rules of editing. Be organized, trust your instincts, and always tell the truth. And then he has said the third one is always the hardest to pull off. And it's true. I mean, I think when I was working with them, the third rule, always tell the truth, is really tough, and especially when you're editing in editing terms, what does that mean exactly? What does telling the truth mean? To me it means telling the story, the truth of the story, especially when you're editing. You can manipulate things. You can manipulate things to not necessarily be truthful to the story, and we have to make sure that we are responsible in telling the truth of the story, and that's the power of editing. How many, I feel like everyone has seen those trailers where they like change the genre, like Dumb and Dumber becomes like a horror film, those kinds of trailers where they flip it, or vice versa. They take like a really scary like Friday the 13th horror movie and make it into a comedy, and like that's editing. We can manipulate that. We can change how an audience feels about our films. That's something Richard always preaches, especially when I was there with them. I all the big decisions that we made, and Richard allows their assistants, and Colleen allows their assistants to edit, and we're literally on the keyboard and mouse, and we're editing as they're literally just sitting next to us, talking through their thought process, and kind of just explaining like what is going on, and not necessarily like wide shot, medium shot, close up. It's more like, what's the meaning of this story? Like, what's the point of the scene? What is this character trying to do in this scene? So that's the part where I really want to emphasize on, is being truthful to that, and being truthful to the character, the story, the script, and what the director really wants, because that ultimately is what our responsibility as an editor is to tell this story in the most truthful way, and to impact audiences. So yeah, I think that rule, it really, and he said it's the hardest because it is. It's so hard to do that, to do that effectively. When I was there, I was able to watch their thought process in kind of managing this, especially when the director was over, and watching, the cuts that they were doing, the conversations. It's so fascinating to see sort of behind the scenes of the actual edit, So it's really something I think that we should all think about. You have to really understand what the director or the writer is going for, because that's how you really get the purest and honest truth of what the story is. So yeah, I really appreciated, learning that from the Halseys, and I feel like this is a good lesson for everyone to sort of take in and think about and reflect on. And whenever you're editing something and you have a big decision, like cutting out a scene, or needing more context, really think about it. Like, is this going to help the story? Is this really going to be beneficial to however this character is sort of set up? Like, it's gotta follow the purpose of the story, the purpose of the character, the purpose of the arc, so all these deeper layer meanings to what we do in the edit should matter, and it should be talked about. Every cut, every decision needs to have a purpose. So just think about that, just kind of think about that and reflect on it. I think that rule is very, it can, you can sort of interpret it in so many ways, but for me, I think that is what Richard means, is, you have such a huge responsibility as an editor, because you have so many options and so many ways to cut a different scene, but you have to really tell the truth in the story. So yeah, and then, rule 2 kind of goes hand in hand with rule 3. I think rule 2, trust your instincts. This is a huge thing that I think a lot of us struggle with, especially me, even till now, like I still kind of second guess my cutting, my editing, but there is always that feeling of like, whenever I watch something and I feel good about the cut, like that feeling of just like trusting your instincts is such a freeing and satisfying feeling, because to you it just feels right. When you get that feeling of it just feeling right, there's just nothing like it, because you feel like it's your cut, it's the way you edit, and it's the way you feel like the story should be told. Trust your gut, trust your heart, trust your instincts. That will always sort of lead you to the right answer. And I think that rule, it's still, till this day I still kind of struggle with it, because I always kind of, it's funny, like I always put myself in the shoes of the director whenever I'm editing, like maybe he or she will like it this way, sort of that mentality of like always trying to appease the director, because you're obviously trying to get the director's vision, but at the same time, like who's really, or you're not really editing it, it's sort of someone else's opinion on you editing the film, so it's never really you who's editing the film. You sort of need to trust yourself and feel like it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter yet what the director's opinion will do to your thought process. that's where I always get caught up in. Edit for yourself, edit for, the instincts that you have. But yeah, so that's, I think, what that means is really trust your instincts and really be confident in editing because you feel like it's the right way to tell a story. And then the last trait that they both shared was to be organized. Like Colleen said, like the editing room is just almost just like a library. It's a library full of shots, full of notes, full of requests from every single department. So you need an assistant who's going to be organized, and you need someone who can literally just bring up something really quickly in a matter of 5 minutes or less and kind of be able to work that way. There would always be times when I'm just working, right? It's just like typical Monday, 9:30 in the morning. And then all of a sudden, producer or editor walks into my room and runs to say, hey, can you pull up scene 45 from episode 502? And we just need to watch it really quickly because, the director has a question on it. So in that instant, you kind of have to, in your head, know where the directory is on your computer or wherever it is. So it's almost just like you build up the skill of being able to locate things immediately. I mean, this again comes with a lot of practice and a lot of experience, but those are the kinds of things you're going to deal with is kind of requests on the fly, just really quick, like, hey, can you pull up that VFX shot from, episode 502 in scene 1? We're going to need to send that out to a visual effects vendor. Those are the things that you're going to have to deal with. And again, like I have a method of having things down written on Post-it notes. My earlier videos, I wrote down literally like my whole desk is full of Post-it notes because, when people come in, they have something, they literally just say it immediately. And I can't I can't pull up a notepad on my computer that quick. I just literally take out the Sharpie and my Post-it note and just write it down as much as I could listen. Sometimes I just write VFX shot from 502 and then like remember the last couple of things that they've said so that I don't lose, more information on it, and then just kind of write it down. Those are the kinds of things you're gonna have to deal with, and being organized is gonna help, and I will, warn you, don't be too organized. I have that problem of being too organized where I can't find things after it being put into even more compartments. Just have a way to get to something really quickly in a matter of, minutes or seconds. So so that's a really huge thing, being able to be organized. You're eventually going to become a first assistant where you're basically going to be in charge of the editing ship. So you're going to basically create the whole, the whole show. You're going to create the organizational folders for each show, and you'll be in charge of where everything lives. And your editor is just going to be like, okay, so this is just my folder and this is where I'm going to be working. So you're going to be in charge of everything else. So working up to that is very important. So make sure, again, you practice this and try to always find ways to be more organized. So thank you so much for watching part 2 of this Halsey interview. I really appreciate you guys watching this. I hope you got a lot out of it, and hopefully you learned from all the advice that Colleen and Richard shared, and learned something from the takeaways I shared at the end as well. I do want to mention that I do one-on-one mentorship calls. So if you want to pursue this seriously, definitely reach out to me because I really love helping, passionate film editors, break into this industry, especially recent college graduates or people who just want to get a foot in the door. So definitely reach out to me, and you can sign up for a mentorship call under the schedule appointment tab in my website at www.askthefonz.com. I'm also on all the social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, everything. My handle is @AskTheFonz. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be releasing part 3 of this very soon, so hit the bell sign to get notified on when I do. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about this interview, questions or comments that you have. Also, give this video a thumbs up and hit the like button down below. I'm here for you, and I'm here to answer every editing question you guys have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found something useful here. Until next time.